Hokage Multiverse. Time Traveler rewrites ninja history for immortality. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 41. Fight Iwagakure alone. Come on together. 3 days later. Outside Iwagakure village in the land of Earth. Uchiha Madara arrived as promised. Currently, no one except Iwagakure knows about this matter. Even Konoha didn't know that Madara had secretly made a secret war with the entire Iwagakure village. 3 days ago, after receiving the envoy from Iwagakure, Hashirama and Tobirama left the village and rushed to visit the Lord Daimyo of Fire Country. Although the daimyo of this era did not have high binding force on Konoha village, they were still nominal lords and gave considerable financial support to Konoha village. Hashirama decided the ownership of the second Hokage like a dictator, but he still learned that he would meet the Land of Fire. But considering Madara's character, if she really went to visit the daimyo, she might not be able to help but kill those in power, so she didn't let Madara come with her. He was only allowed to stay in the village and take care of Konoha. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Madara happened to go out to visit Iwagakure village. Is this Iwagakure village? It doesn't look like much. Madara stood alone on the barren rock wall, looking down at the Yenin village in the distance with disdain in her eyes. The current Iwagakure village has just been established, and not many houses have been built. Naturally, it is not as developed as it would be a few decades later, coupled with the brutal melee of the Warring States period. Even if all the ninjas in the village were added up, there would still not be 10,000 rock ninjas. Isn't this a good time to destroy Iwagakure? If we wait a few more years, wait for Iwagakure village to stabilize, and wait for all the ninja clans in the Land of Earth to have a sense of belonging to Iwagakure village, it will not be so easy to deal with it. Xia You flashed beside Madara in an instant. Naturally, he would not miss this rare village-destroying battle. It's also a good time to accumulate some experience. After all, if nothing unexpected happens, the other 6 Hokage worlds will have to destroy Iwagakure village again. Are you going to take action? No, I am only responsible for watching the show. Of course, you will be defeated. For the sake of cooperation, I will save your life. Xia You laughed casually and said, of course, the chance of that is very low. Snort. There won't be that moment. Madara snorted coldly and ignored Xia You. At the same time, the Iwagakure village also noticed Madara's arrival, and a sharp alarm sounded immediately, resounding through the sky. But there was no panic in the village. Instead, groups of Iwagakure ninjas leaped high and surrounded Madara in the direction. A rough visual estimate showed that there were thousands of people. But most of them are just make-up genin, and they are almost no threat. Have all the women and children been moved? That's even better. There's no need to hold anything back. Madara could tell the current situation of Iwagakure village at a glance. It is estimated that the other side had already made preparations after receiving the war declaration information that was not brought back, and moved all the women, children, old and young in the village to avoid being greatly affected by the battle. Soon, a figure flew out from the Iwagakure army, first Hokage Ishikawa. Relying on that light and heavy rock technique, he can greatly reduce his own weight and increase his speed so that he can fly freely in the air. Shurha took the lead, flew into the air 100 meters away from Madara, and stopped. Observe and be vigilant. Is there another figure besides Madara? Who is that person? He is also a ninja from Konoha? There seems to be no record in the information. And he is not wearing a Konoha forehead protector? This feeling is very weak chakra, not even the level of genin. Is the chakra hidden, or is it just this small amount? Well, fortunately, there were no more Konoha ninjas around. Regardless of the strange ninja, Uchiha Madara is more important. Your Excellency Uchiha Madara, why do you have to go to this step? Iwagakure and Konoha have no enmity, so there is no need to use swords against each other. Ishikawa shouted to Madara. A final struggle, hoping to eliminate this war that should not exist. It's so stupid to pin the hope of ending the war on the enemy. Madara sneered, looking down on this Hokage at all. If he was really brave, he would not have sent his apprentice and grandson to visit Konoha before, but would have visited Konoha himself. Sir Madara, if you have any dissatisfaction with the Iwagakure village, we can sit down and discuss it. Iwagakure village is willing to make a good alliance with the Uchiha clan. Ha ha ha. Are you worthy enough? Uchiha laughs wildly again. Such humiliation made Shurha extremely angry. Damn it, Uchiha, I've long heard that they are arrogant, but I didn't expect them to be so arrogant. If Iwagakure doesn't show off his power, does he really think that his family is just a bunch of sick cats? Your Excellency Madara, on behalf of Iwagakure village, I give you one last warning. If you are still insisting on your own way, don't blame me, Iwagakure village, for being ruthless. Madara was already very impatient and scolded directly. What a fuss. Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. Madara took the lead and activated ninjutsu, spitting out a straight line of flames from her mouth, instantly crossing 100 meters and shooting towards the floating stone river. Sure, he was shocked and hurriedly flew out of the way, narrowly avoiding the burning line of fire. I was even more amazed in my heart. What a powerful fire style. Seeing Madara launch an attack, he no longer had any illusions and immediately used magic to counterattack. Earth style, Rock Iron Cannon Technique. Several small stones were spit out from the mouth of the stone river, and they continued to grow and turned into solid cannonballs, flying towards Madara. Bang bang bang. Madara did not activate ninjutsu to block it, but simply waved the Uchiha flame fan in her hand to shatter all the solid shells. Earth style, Talon Gun. Earth style Rock Pillar Gun. Earth style, Earth Stone Dragon. Shurha no longer retains it, and various earth styles come at his fingertips, continuously covering Madara. To be able to become the first Hokage and end the chaos in Earth Kingdom, he still has a lot of skills. However, Shurha was not in a hurry to let the thousands of rock ninja behind him join the battle. That way, even if they win, Iwagakure village won't be able to publicize it. If he could compete or even defeat Uchiha Madara alone, wouldn't he gain more fame? Although Uchiha Madara's reputation is great, Ishikawa is also a first Hokage after all, and he thinks he is still capable of fighting. It is a pity. Madara immediately shattered his confidence. Madara jumped high and easily dodged the attack. Then quickly formed seals and performed the spell. Fire style, Extinguishing the Fire. A large sea of flames spurted out, covering half of the sky. The scope was so large that it almost exceeded the scope of ninjutsu. This move directly consumed more than 20 Karagakure ninjas in 4 battles, and they could barely resist it by using water barrier together. What's more, these are all rock ninjas, and out of 10, you can't find a ninja who is good at water style. The level of ninjutsu never determines the power, only the caster himself truly determines the power. For a time, the extremely large fire style range directly blocked all Shurha's escape routes. He was forced to resist. Earth style, Arm of Rock. A rock arm the size of 5 people was condensed and formed, protecting Shurha within it to resist the power of fire style. But Madara's fire style is really scary. In just a few seconds, the hard rock arm was roasted red and even gradually softened. Earth style, Yanli style jutsu. Shurha was in a hurry and used a spell again, spending a lot of chakra, spitting out a huge clay giant from his mouth, protecting it and strengthening his defense again. Only then could he barely withstand the terrifying power of the powerful fire. But he didn't have time to breathe. Fire style, Great Fire Destruction. High in the sky, Madara launched fire style attack again. An extremely huge fireball, like a meteorite, fell suddenly, like a scorching sun falling. Its coverage area and impact power are better than those of fire extinguishing. After landing, the fireball will spread to form a sea of fire, enough to ignite a forest. If it landed in Yenin village, one move would be enough to destroy most of the village. Boom! The giant fireball hit the clay giant condensed by Shurha, directly smashing it into pieces. The next moment, first Hokage Shurha was like a piece of gravel, being hit hard by the fireball and smashed into the hard rock wall below, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Hokage-sama. Hokage-sama. The IWA ninjas were so anxious that they rushed into the Sea of Fire in an attempt to rescue Shurha. However, the power of the Sea of Fire did not diminish, and a large number of rock ninjas were burned in a matter of seconds. Don't come in! There was a shout from the Sea of Fire, and he activated Earth-style Seismic Core, instantly lifting a square piece of land and lifting him out of the Sea of Fire quickly. But his condition was not optimistic. Most of his beard had been burned off, and his clothes were stained with flames. Looking very embarrassed. It's also ninjutsu, and the power of Madara's fire style is beyond imagination. At that moment, Ishikawa felt as if he was being attacked by dozens of elite jonin using fire style. It was terrible. Is this the power of Uchiha Madara? Seeing that he was still alive, Madara grinned. It's a bit interesting, but unfortunately it's far from enough. Come on together, I will let you experience the weight of Uchiha. Madara, high in the sky, laughed loudly. His blood was boiling all over, and his fighting spirit was surging. He hadn't moved his body so happily for a long time. I'm going to have a good dance today. The next moment, Madara fell rapidly, like a grenade, fiercely smashing into the IWA ninja army. They started dancing crazily and started a bloody massacre. Episode 42. The first test of the reincarnation. Am I actually Magneto? Madara fought into the IWA ninja army alone. Like a violent chariot, it is rampaging and unstoppable. Ordinary ninjas can't even see his figure clearly and can only barely see a bright red light, flashing quickly through the military formation, as if depicting a picture. Wherever the red light flashed, people fell on their backs and were destroyed, causing heavy casualties. And none of the rock ninjas even touched Madara's clothes. Kakuzu Sharingan is not only powerful in genjutsu and special pupil techniques, but also its substantial bonuses in physical techniques and dynamic vision are equally terrifying. Even in a battle between ninjas with the same physical skills, stronger dynamic vision can easily bring huge advantages. Your movements are as slow as a snail in others' eyes, and their movements are as fast as lightning in your eyes. This is impossible to fight. What's more, Sharingan can easily see through and copy the enemy's physical skills. Regardless of ninjutsu or taijutsu, Madara is the ultimate ninja. He is the only guy who can compete with God of Ninja, Senju Hashirama, in close hand-to-hand combat for so many years. Do you want to dance too? This is enough to prove that Madara has reached the pinnacle of physical skills. Just a few minutes. Hundreds of rock ninjas have died under Madara's dance. For Madara, this can barely be considered a warm-up, and it is not even enough for him to use all his strength to perform physical skills. On the towering rock wall, Xia You watched the killing with great interest. Thanks to the powerful dynamic vision bonus of Samsara Eye, Xia You was able to see Madara's movements clearly and took the opportunity to quickly imitate and learn Madara's powerful physical skills. There are not many good opportunities like this. This is currently the most powerful taijutsu secret in the ninja world. Every move and every movement of Madara is the ultimate killing technique honed through decades of battlefield fighting. The moves are deadly, without any bells and whistles or sloppiness. Of course, Xia You couldn't fully learn it in just a few minutes. But even if you can only use the reincarnation eye to make a rough copy, it will be enough to soar your actual combat ability, and you will not be a novice in combat. Not bad. Madara dances really well, and she can continue to dance more. Xia You continued to copy Madara's physical skills with gusto. However, it didn't take long. Then he suddenly discovered that two rock ninjas were bypassing the battlefield below and quietly approaching him. And it seems that the strength is not low. One is a chunin, and the other looks like a special jonin. You can't help Madara, so are you going to pinch yourself for being such a soft persimmon? Do you think you are from Konoha, so you can use yourself to threaten Madara? Xia You instantly guessed the thoughts of the two IWA ninjas. If they were a powerful enemy that was difficult to defeat on the frontal battlefield, they could only use off-board moves to calculate. However, Iwagakure was not sure about his relationship with Madara. That's why you only sent two people to test yourself, right? Xia You did not choose to teleport away immediately. It's a rare opportunity to try out your reincarnation eye ability. I have to find a way to unify the 7 parallel ninja worlds in the future. I can't just teleport away in dejection when I see an enemy ninja, right? Soon, the two rock ninjas quietly touched Xia Yu's back and prepared to attack. Earth style, rock pillar prison. Wind escape, thousand winds beam. The two IWA ninja activated ninjutsu at the same time, and both were control-type ninjutsu. They are here to test Xia You. It is best to capture Xia You alive to find out information or to threaten Madara. If he killed him directly, it would be in vain. Pity. Xia You, who had been on guard for a long time, would certainly not let the opponent succeed. Sealing technique absorbing seal. Xia You activated one of the abilities of Reincarnation Eye in advance, forming a suction shield around his body. Easily absorbs all the ninjutsu cast by the opponent. Neither Rock Pillar Prison nor Qianfeng encountered Xia You in the slightest. This is also one of the reasons why the Reincarnation Eye is known as the most powerful pupil technique. It can absorb almost all ninjutsu, which is almost unsolvable for ordinary ninjas. See the scene. The two IWA ninja were shocked and couldn't figure out how Xia You counteracted their ninjutsu. The unknown is often the scariest. However, Xia You looked at them with very kind eyes. Because the ninjutsu they released was absorbed by his Reincarnation Eye, which actually gave him an extra part of chakra. Although it's only temporary, it's enough for fun. Yo. Thank you Lao Tai for sending me the chakra. I am worried that I have too little chakra and I can't even use the Reincarnation Eye ability. Next moment. Xia Yu's Reincarnation Eye left eye ability, Xia You, activate. An invisible force enveloped the Iwagakure Chunin on the right, and the latter instantly twitched all over, feeling extremely itchy and uncomfortable inside his body. Then, countless tiny red spots appeared on the surface of the skin. A faint gray-black mist spread out along the pores of the skin and gradually gathered in front of Xia You. Eventually, a small black iron bead formed. Obviously, these are the iron elements in the ninja's body. They were all forcibly drawn out by the magnetic field constructed by Xia Yu's Xia You. Xia You, you can generate and control electromagnetic force within a certain range at will. Xia Yu didn't extract much iron from the ninja's body. It's only a few grams, about the size of half a fingernail. Unfortunately, the opponent's kunai are all made of steel and are difficult to control. Or a stronger force is needed to activate Xia You, increase the strength of the magnetic field, and magnetize it before it can be controlled at will. However, a little iron is enough. Anyway, I just want to experience the effect of Xia You. It feels good. Just relying on the ability of Reincarnation Eye, he seems to be a replica of Magneto. Unexpectedly, it can really extract all the iron elements from the enemy's body. At this moment, the rock ninja whose iron element was drained from his body had already turned blood red, his breathing had stopped, and he passed out on the spot. In less than a moment, he will die suddenly due to lack of blood and oxygen. The IWA ninja on the left was frightened the whole time. He had never seen such a weird ninjutsu. I don't even know what the other party is. What is the black mist drawn from the teammates' bodies? And how does it kill the teammates? Fear caused him to collapse quickly, and he no longer wanted to capture Xia Yu alive. I just want to get away from this monster quickly. So he ran away and tried his best to retreat. Don't leave in a hurry. I'm giving you a gift. Please accept it. Xia Yu is not Magneto King, let alone pretending to be Magneto King like him. The gravitational pull of Reincarnation Eye can extend many skills and usages, not to mention the electromagnetic force, which is also one of the 4 fundamental forces. This moment, Xia Yu spent all his energy to absorb the chakra, activated Xia You, again, controlled the small iron ball in front of him, and aimed at the escaping rock ninja. A large number of blue-green arcs wrapped around Xia Yu's arm, forming circles of high-frequency electromagnetic fluctuation coils, and finally exerted a huge ampere force on the iron ball. Boom! The iron ball instantly turned into a torrent of metal ions and shot out with a bang. A bright arc trace streaked through the air. In the blink of an eye, he hit and penetrated the escaping rock ninja. Seeing the scene, Xia Yu was overjoyed. Obviously, his derivative pupil technique, rail gun, was successful. Episode 43. Yanin is destroyed and the progress of Unity skyrockets. High energy reward. The electromagnetic gun fired by Xia Yu is quite powerful. After penetrating and killing the rock ninja, it also bombarded the rock wall in the distance, exploding a huge crater several meters wide. This power is not inferior to the original form of Rasengan. You must know that Rasengan is one of the few A-level ninjutsu. What's more, Xia Yu only used a small amount of chakra, far from exerting the full power of Xia You. If there is enough chakra, it will not be a problem to increase its power hundreds of times and thousands of times. Until then, his own strike, super electromagnetic cannon, not to mention penetrated the stars. Penetrating the moon should still be possible, right? And this is just a usage of the electromagnetic force constructed by Xia You. Xia Yu has many other ways to play that are waiting to be tried. Hiss. My Reincarnation Eye ability is very strong. It's so cool. It's much better than Amaterasu, who can't be burned to death. Let's try the ability of the other eye next time. Xia Yu withdrew his gaze with satisfaction, no longer paying attention to the 2 rock ninja corpses, and continued to turn around and look at the battlefield ahead. In the battlefield below, the massacre continues. No one can stop Madara at all, and surrounded by his own family, the IWA ninja dare not release any large-scale ninjutsu. That will only kill more of your own people. As for dragging it down, till Uchiha Madara is exhausted? But look at the way the other person is doing it with ease. How can he look like he is struggling at all? Just drag it on like this. It's not certain whether Madara will die from exhaustion, but I'm afraid the rock ninjas, will all die. We can't let him continue the killing. Sachikage Ishikawa, who was suspended in the air and had been looking down at the entire battle situation, made an immediate decision. Soon, he commanded his cronies and began to activate barriers. Barriers, super heavy rock formation. Barriers gradually appeared on the ground in circles that became heavier. This was one of the traps deliberately laid by a Wagakure village in advance. The entire Yanin village knew that the enemy was coming to challenge them, so how could they be unprepared? Barriers' curse patterns have been secretly laid out around the village. After its activation, any creature shrouded by this barrier will have its own gravity greatly increased, thus extremely slowing down. Within the barriers, hundreds of Iwagakure genin fell to their knees in an instant, as if they were weighed down by a mountain, struggling to hold themselves on the ground, panting violently. Madara's speed suddenly dropped, and she was also restrained by the power of barriers, and her speed was greatly reduced. Only in this way can Madara's almost unsolvable terrifying physical skills be restrained. And it's not over yet. Since it is a trump card trap, of course the enemy must be killed in one go. The moment the aggravating barriers activated, Wu, who had been hiding all this time, finally showed up. Outside the barriers, he aimed at Madara and charged up his blood inheritance elimination technique, Dust Style, original stripping technique. Normal status. It's almost impossible to hit Madara with Dust Style. Xiao Li's speed of unloading has surpassed the dynamic vision of the ninja's naked eye, and Madara's physical skills are comparable to those of the Seven-Dora Kai. Can you aim at it? But within aggravated barriers. Madara's speed is greatly limited, so it's possible to hit with one shot. Just hit. Without absolute confidence, it evaporates directly Uchiha Madara. Turn them all into molecules. But he only has one chance to use such a trick, and he must do it at the most appropriate time. Now is the perfect time. One-hit kill. It's a pity that Madara's combat experience and awareness are not comparable to that of a ninja novice. The moment barriers activated, he noticed that his body became heavier and slowed down. Madara guessed that the enemy would most likely take the opportunity to launch a powerful ninjutsu sniper attack on her. As a result, he formed seals and performed magic in an instant. Fire Style, Dust Hidden Technique. Large pieces of high-temperature dust are spit out from Madara's mouth. The dust-containing chakra can block the enemy's sight throughout the process, thus hiding itself. Even with Sharingan, you can't see through it. In just a moment, the dust covered the surrounding area for hundreds of meters. These barriers can reduce the speed of the ninja, but cannot reduce the speed of the spread of dust. So much so. Wu, who was aiming outside the barriers, directly lost Madara's position and was unable to aim at all. Of course, Wu can also activate Dust Style in a wider range, but it will undoubtedly require a longer charging time and will also accidentally kill hundreds of rock ninjas in barriers. There is no way it can be done. He had no choice but to release Dust Style based on his feeling. Covering the area where Madara last stayed, the cube area with a diameter of several meters was completely broken down into atoms. After a few seconds, the high-temperature damage and explosion caused by the dust once again seriously injured hundreds of rock ninjas in the barriers. If half of them survive, you are lucky. But Ishikawa and Wu had no intention of paying attention to the casualties. Did you make it? Countless rock ninjas outside the barriers held their breath and waited eagerly for Master Wu to kill Madara with one blow. It's a pity that all they are left with is despair. Next moment. Before the gray fog cleared, a huge blue chakra sword suddenly thrust straight out. It pierced through barriers, super heavy rock formation, in an instant. Immediately afterwards, a mountain-like blue Susanoo quickly rose from the ground. Its size exceeded the mountain peak, showing the perfect posture of a warrior god. Complete Susanoo. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan's ultimate ability is the ultimate eye technique, which is comparable to the power of a god. Finally, he was nakedly displayed in front of everyone in Iwagakure. Needless to say, no need to describe, just seeing the majestic Susanoo standing in front of him, like a god of war, was enough to scare the courage of all the IWA ninjas. The ultimate sense of oppression and fear of giant objects cannot be resisted by ordinary will. Just like ordinary people facing Godzilla, they simply cannot muster the courage to fight. Madara held her hands, suspended within the forehead of Susan, who was hundreds of meters high, looked down at everything below, and finally fixed her gaze on Wu. Nice ninjutsu, I almost succeeded. In that case, let me give you the opportunity to see the true power of Uchiha Madara. Iwagakure village? Disappear from this world today. Madara controlled Susanoo, drew out the sword, and struck it at the Iwagakure village 1,000 meters away. This knife. Swallowing mountains and rivers with anger, sword energy like a rainbow. The storm created by the sword itself is like a hurricane, and the chakra sword energy that is slashed out is even more sharp and powerful. Boom. The entire Yenin village was split into two by the sword energy. All the houses were reduced to ruins, and a gully and canyon thousands of meters long suddenly appeared. This is the complete Susanoo power that is enough to shake things up and rewrite the landscape. For a while, all the IWA ninja fell into the abyss, completely enveloped in despair. At this moment, first Hokage Ishikawa truly realized how naive his previous thoughts were. Is this the true power of Uchiha Madara? Is this power enough to rival Senju Hashirama? How could Konoha be so virtuous that he could have two such terrifying inhumans? Konoha, if you had made it clear earlier, what kind of alliance would you have made? Yanin village can come directly and be your little brother. Why do we need to perform this show? That's right, sure he has completely figured it out at this moment, or has finished making up his mind. This is a show played by Konoha from beginning to end. On the one hand, Hokage sent a friendly request for alliance to Awagakure on behalf of Konoha and tricked their envoys into discussing it. On the other hand, using the excuse that Awagakure village does not know what is good and does not want to form an alliance, they confidently send Uchiha Madara to destroy Awagakure village. This way, Konoha took all the fame and benefits. Yanin village became the chicken used to kill as a warning. Yes, Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara must have discussed this long ago. What a ruthless Hokage. What a ruthless Konoha. Shura suddenly woke up. It's a pity that it's too late to regret. Unless someone can defeat Uchiha Madara. Otherwise, Yanin village will definitely perish after today. Episode 44, The Sorrow of Tsuchikage. When complete Susanoo appears, most of the IWA ninja were frightened and paralyzed on the spot. After more than 10 seconds, the timid ninja turned around and fled, without the courage to confront Susanoo. That is not fighting, but seeking death. Where there is one there are two. More Awagakure fled, and the entire Awagakure army gradually collapsed. First Tsuchikage Ishikawa wanted to stop it, but he couldn't stop it at all. This is the ninja world, a battle between ninjas. Without enough benefits and prestige, who will work hard for you? Even if Shura takes action ruthlessly, he will directly kill those fleeing rock ninjas. It is impossible to stop the collapse. With his size and strength, how could his killing speed be as fast as Madara's Susanoo? You can kill dozens of ninjas with just one knife over there. Which side is more terrifying? Ninjas can still tell the difference. If you really kill the deserters, block the escape route of these fleeing rock ninjas, and make them desperate, aren't you afraid that they will turn around and attack you, Tsuchikage? I can't beat Uchiha Madara, but I can't beat you, old Tsuchikage. No way. Ishikawa could only watch those Awagakure escaping, watching the entire Awagakure army collapse. Tsuchikage-sama, it's not time to give up yet. Wu Wobbly flew behind Shura and shouted loudly, obviously not admitting defeat. His light and heavy rock technique is not yet proficient enough to fly freely. No, you. Ishikawa looked at Wu, who looked determined, and then at Susanoo, who was unparalleled in power. He really didn't know how to resist. Please, Tsuchikage-sama, please attract that guy's attention for me. He must have sacrificed mobility by launching such a large-scale ninjutsu. As long as my dust style can hit, it may not be impossible to defeat this monster. Hearing this, Shura also felt a little hopeful. Then he gritted his teeth and agreed. Okay, let me attract attention for you. Earth style, super, Gonli style jutsu. Ishikawa formed a seal and activated his own ninjutsu, which was the bottom of the box. A large amount of chakra poured into the ground, causing countless boulders to rise, and soon condensed into a rock monster more than 200 meters high. Different from second Tsuchikage's undeveloped Goshiki no Jutsu, this super Ganshiki no Jutsu is more violent and dangerous. Once formed, a large amount of the caster's chakra will be consumed every minute. Even the slightest carelessness will drain the user dry until he suddenly dies. But it is precisely by relying on this trick. Only Ishikawa could calm down the chaos in the Earth Kingdom and successfully take the position of Tsuchikage. In this chaotic warring states era, it is impossible to convince anyone without strength and just relying on words. Soon, the rock monster rising from the ground caught Madara's attention. Although the height of this giant monster is only Susanoo's waist, it is already very strong for a ninja. A random falling boulder can kill a ninja. But Tuha can control the movement of a giant composed of hundreds of thousands of boulders, which shows his strength. TSK, it seems that Shagu is still determined to give up. Very good. You who bear the name of Tsuchikage, let me take you on your last journey. Madara was not polite and waved the Susanada sword directly, slashing at the rock monster in Ishikawa. Brush. The blade cut through the air, bringing up a line of blazing fire, which was faster than dozens of times the speed of sound. The heavy rock monster had no time to resist. With just one strike, the giant rock monster was cut in half. The latter is not the perfect enemy of Susan at all. But this is not the end. Shura continued to increase Chakra's output and saw countless boulders flying up beside the rock monster that was cut in half, combining with each other to make up for it. It was quickly restored to like new condition. Seeing this, Madara's eyes lit up. I couldn't help but admire. Earth-style ninjutsu that can be fixed quickly? Not bad. Among the Earth styles, no one is better than you. It's not a disgrace to Tsuchikage's name. However, how long can you sustain such a large and crude consumption of chakra? Don't think that just by pinching a big piece of mud, you can compete with my Susan. It is also a giant ninjutsu, but this super, Gonli Shiki no Jutsu is not comparable to Susanoo. Whether it's defense, power, or flexibility, far inferior to. Moreover, the consumption of the rock giant is several times higher than that of Susanoo. In just a short moment, Shurhi's complexion turned visibly pale, showing the terrifying consumption of this forbidden technique. Madara could tell at a glance that Shurha wouldn't last long. Brush. With another slash, the newly recovered giant monster collapsed again. Madara is as casual as dismembering a toy and wants to see how long the stone river can last. But Sachikage Shurha's desperate purpose is to attract Madara's attention and create opportunities for Wu. Apparently, he did. The other side. Wu had already sneaked around behind Susanoo, hundreds of meters away, aiming at Madara in Susanoo's forehead, and charged up, dust style, again. But he was just halfway through accumulating strength. I suddenly discovered it. At some point, Uchiha Madara had already turned back to look at him. I exposed myself. Next moment, the towering Susanoo suddenly grew two big hands. One of the right hands made a fist and waved it casually. Boom. The air along the way was compressed and exploded by huge force, and the violent wind roared out, spanning a distance of hundreds of meters and directly bombarded nowhere. For a moment, the area tens of meters around collapsed and cracked on the spot as if it had been hit by a meteorite. Wu's dust style was directly interrupted. The whole person was embedded into the rock by the huge force. His bones were shattered, his muscles were broken, and his blood spurted out. He was on the verge of death on the spot. This is Uchiha Madara. Wu murmured despair, feeling that he had not lost unfairly. Sure enough, he was always on guard against himself. It is an honor to be guarded by Uchiha Madara during the battle. Wuya was indeed right. Madara had always been wary of him. Now that she knew Wu had mastered a powerful secret technique that could threaten her, how could Madara not pay attention to him? If he had been careless on the battlefield, he would never have survived until now. Madara looked at Wu on the ground coldly. When the opponent thought he was winning, did he take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack? And let Sachikage take action to attract my attention. You are really as despicable as that beast Tobirama. It's a pity that real power will not lose to such tricks. This is both appreciation for Wu and contempt for him. But it's undeniable. Such a despicable ninja is indeed more suitable for the battlefield and better able to win on the battlefield. Just like Tobirama defeated Izuna. If Iwagakure village has always existed, this guy is most likely second Sachikage, right? It's a pity that we don't have that chance. Madara controls Susanoo, and the fourth handle once again condenses a Susanoo sword. Cut it down with one knife. Landslides and landslides. The future second Sachikage has died on the spot. None. Sachikage Ishikawa's eyes were about to burst, and he was furious. Seeing his most proud disciple die in front of him, the shock and hatred naturally surged. Uchiha Madara. Ishikawa gritted his teeth, controlled the rock monster, and pounced on Susanoo desperately. Launch a final desperate fight. No matter how loud you roar, it will not change the outcome of the battlefield. Power is not will, but a phenomenon caused by matter. First Sachikage, let's exit now. Madara, who is already enjoying herself, will no longer delay, let alone give Shurha a chance to make a comeback. Next moment. The four Susanoo swords were chopped down at the same time, directly taking the stone river. Like four blue aurora splitting the sky, there is endless murderous intent in the dazzling eyes. Boom! The huge stone monster completely shattered, and countless stones rained from the sky. First Sachikage Stone River, followed by annihilation and death. Episode 45. Lottery Treasure Box, Chakra skyrocketed. Along with Sachikage Ishikawa, as well as Mizu and other Iwagakure elite died. This battle is nearing its end. Look around. The huge Gobi battlefield has been smashed to pieces by Susanoo, and countless corpses are bleeding into rivers, making it a mess. A rough estimate is that at least 1,000 ninjas were killed. The injured were countless. The entire landscape around Yenin village has been significantly reshaped, and the deep canyons thousands of meters long are even more shocking and terrifying. The remaining ninjas are still fleeing, wishing they had never joined the Iwagakure village. As for Xia You, after seeing Madara activate complete Susanoo, he was very sure that there was almost no suspense in this battle. At Chaoying's level, it is almost impossible to rely on human-C tactics to kill someone. Third Raikage, one person can fight tens of thousands of rock ninjas alone, but he still dies of exhaustion in the end. And how can the newly established Iwagakure village gather enough 10,000 ninjas, even if you work hard to get it together? You don't think complete Susanoo can't compare to third-generation Rise lightning-style armor, do you? You don't even think that Madara's chakra is inferior to the third Raikage who can fight for 3 days and 3 nights, right? Therefore, the outcome of this battle has already been determined. In this era, the concept of ninja village has just emerged. Iwagakure village was founded less than 3 months ago. How many ninjas are willing to fight for it? Thousands of people versus one person. You can still bully others in a favorable situation, but who wants to die in a headwind situation? What's more, even if you fight bravely until the last moment, you can defeat Uchiha Madara. The cruel war in the ninja world has never been changed by the will of the ninja, after all. Or are these ninjas from the Earth Kingdom suffering from lack of knowledge? They have only heard of Hashirama and Madara's reputation and know that they are very powerful. But how powerful is it exactly? They don't have a clear understanding at all. If it were the ninjas in the Fire Country who had seen the battle between Senju and Uchiha, they would never have the courage to fight against Madara. Otherwise, why are the Sarutobi clan, Shimura clan, Hyuga clan, etc.? When you heard that Senju and Uchiha were teaming up to build a village, you immediately rushed to join them. Do you really think they are all fools? The war is over. Madara is still cleaning the battlefield, and there are still a handful of Iwagakure diehards who are stubbornly resisting and attacking Madara without fear of death. If it is normal, Madara, who had already danced to the fullest, was too lazy to tangle with the gravel. But considering the deal with Xia You and the hope of his brother Izuna's resurrection, Madara decided to spend more time and completely kill these Iwagakure diehards. Xia You was very satisfied with this. As expected of old Madara, this credibility, this execution, this efficiency, this craftsmanship. The beasts of the Tianxian society have to accept defeat when they see it. With Madara and Hashirama here, the unification of the ninja world is just around the corner. Xia You clicked on the system very excitedly and looked at the unified progress increase of this, world number 1. Number 1 Hokage world unification progress, 35% Phi 2%. Sure enough, the progress increased significantly. A full 17% increase. It seems that the destruction of Iwagakure village is indeed very important. But how to make up the remaining 48%? At this point in time, except for Konoha and Iwagakure, the other 3 hidden villages have not yet been officially established. There is no place to destroy it. Not to mention some other small countries, the signs of establishing ninja villages have not yet been born. Is it possible to kill all the ninjas in the other 3 countries? Or is it necessary to completely destroy the other 4 countries? It's not difficult to destroy a ninja village. But it is not that easy to completely conquer a country. Or completely destroy it physically, in which case even if 10 tails is captured to work, they will be exhausted, and there is no guarantee that it will not violate the definition of unity. Either it is completely defeated spiritually and culturally, which is also not easy and requires a lot of preparation and planning. Xia You thought for a while and decided not to worry in a hurry. Anyway, I will have plenty of time and energy to try it later. It's better to use the rewards first. The unified progress of 35% to 52%, passing the 40 and 50 nodes, gave Xia You 2 lottery opportunities. Xia You immediately opened 2 lottery treasure boxes. Congratulations, you have received a modern physical exchange coupon. Congratulations, you have obtained a copy of the top-notch ninjutsu scroll, lightning-style Raikiri. Xia You was stunned. The former has been opened in the novice gift package, so I am familiar with it. What is the latter? Ninjutsu scroll? Lightning-style Raikiri? Can you learn this ninjutsu just by using it? Probably. But why is it marked as the best? Xia You clicked on the system and checked it before he figured it out. There are 3 types of ninjutsu scrolls drawn from the system lottery treasure chest: ordinary, rare, and top quality. Normal ninjutsu scroll can only allow the user to quickly master the recorded ninjutsu. Rare ninjutsu scroll allows the user to quickly master the recorded ninjutsu and obtain a certain amount of chakra increase. The ultimate ninjutsu scroll allows the user to instantly master the recorded ninjutsu, obtain a large amount of chakra increase, and have the corresponding chakra attribute. That said, I am very lucky. I pulled out a top-quality ninjutsu scroll in one go. Wait, can amplify a large amount of chakra? Hiss. I am lacking chakra. Although he has the guarantee of world teleport, he also has a pair of powerful reincarnation eyes. But due to low physical fitness and too little chakra, the true power of the reincarnation eye cannot be exerted. Just in time, it will be improved immediately. I like this kind of system, and I will give you whatever I need. It is much better than other systems that like to manipulate the host like a donkey and play with so-so. So Xia You decisively activated the ninjutsu scroll. The scroll turned into a spot of light and quickly integrated into Xia Yu's body. A large amount of ninjutsu and taijutsu knowledge was poured into Xia Yu's mind, allowing him to instantly master S-level ninjutsu, lightning-style Raikiri. Raikiri is not just ninjutsu, it also contains a set of powerful taijutsu thrusting techniques. Although it is nominally the same as Chidori, the difficulty and power of physical skills are obviously higher. But this is not the focus of Xia Yu's concern. The point is, this excellent ninjutsu scroll indeed adds a chakra attribute to myself. Xia Yu's own chakra attribute has changed from 2 attributes, fire and wind, to 3 attributes, fire, wind, and thunder. Besides, my own chakra, which was originally scarce, also increased dozens of times. Or a permanent upper limit increase. To put it simply, Xia Yu's physical fitness and mental strength have skyrocketed. Without actual specific indicators, it was difficult for Xia Yu to judge to what extent his chakra had increased. But they are far stronger than the 2 IWA ninjas who just appeared. It's enough for me to fire several rounds of Shinra Tensei. In this way, let's not talk about killing the enemy. Anyway, it's enough for me to activate the 2 reincarnation eyes, unique abilities at will, and I can continue to tinker with new eye skills. Xia Yu is overjoyed and very excited. I want to continue to try new uses of Xia You Kenyu, or use another high-power railgun to see if I can blow away a small hill. But far away on the battlefield, Madara just finished the finishing work. He was rushing back to his side. Xia Yu had no choice but to suppress his excitement and prepare to receive this major hero of destroying villages. Episode 46. Dongfeng Express, eradicating weeds and germs. Madara jumped high into the air, jumped onto the cliff, and returned to Xia Yu. For a moment, Madara noticed the changes in Xia Yu, and the chakra fluctuations in his body increased dozens of times. The total amount is not high, but compared with the insignificant fluctuation before, the change seems to be very drastic. But Madara wasn't too surprised by this. It's impossible for someone to increase their chakra limit dozens of times in just 10 minutes, right? There is a high probability that this is just a deception by this immortal Yudao. It's not surprising that Madara would think so. After all, he had witnessed before that Xia Yu teleported away without any chakra fluctuation. It was a disguise then, but it's not a disguise now? Just like, you clearly saw a man without any weapons before. But in the blink of an eye, he pulled out a pistol. In the blink of an eye, he took out a rocket launcher. At this time, do you think he only has a rocket launcher hidden on his body? Will he take out a more terrifying weapon? What's more, he has the reincarnation eye and the unpredictable teleportation ability. Madara simply didn't believe that the chakra fluctuations shown by Xia Yu were his true level. Beautiful. Do you feel comfortable dancing to this song? It's okay, but it's not as good as Hashirama. Only Hashirama can really make my blood boil. Madara folded her hands and hummed. I barely recognized Iwagakure village. In other words, I recognized a few of them. Tsuchikage Ishikawa, who was at least willing to fight to the death to protect the village, and Wu, who was despicable but surprisingly talented, both left a fairly deep impression on Madara. These ninjas can be called not bad in Madara's words. This is already a very high praise. In Madara's eyes, most ordinary ninjas are like gravel on the ground, with no memory value. How do you feel about that non-caste ninjutsu? Xia Yu asked enthusiastically. He was also curious, could Dust Style break through the defense of complete Susanoo? Seeing Madara's attitude of focusing so much on Wu during the battle, is it possible to break through? It should be Blood Successor Elimination. That combines the 3 attributes of wind, fire, and earth chakra. It is indeed very rare and can be considered dangerous. If it can be activated faster, it will be a perfect forbidden technique. Madara rarely reviews ninjutsu, but this Dust Style is really worthy of praise. There are only a handful of attack methods in the world that can break through Susanoo's defense. Certainly, breaking through Susan's defense does not mean that he can be defeated. What's more, in front of Madara, there is no chance to fully display Dust Style. What a pity. Such interesting ninjutsu seems to be lost. That's not necessarily true. The brat named Inoki you saw a few days ago is still there. He has probably evacuated Iwagakure village long ago. He may not be able to master this blood succession elimination in the future. Madara's eyes lit up, thinking of Inoki. That brat? What do you mean? Do you need me to kill all the people in Iwagakure, including those young and old who left? Madara frowned slightly. Although he is cruel and cold, he is extremely tolerant of children. After all, besides Izuna, he had several younger brothers who were killed by war when they were young. He wouldn't want to kill children if he could. Xia You waved his hand and said, "No, I'm not that perverted yet. War is war. But genocide is another matter. Xia You doesn't want to be a beast, let alone a squid that is worse than a beast. Listen to this." Madara also relaxed slightly. Then he stared at Xia You and asked about business. "I've made my deal. Now it's your turn to fulfill your promise." Of course, what Madara said is, he is responsible for destroying Iwagakure village, and after that is accomplished, Xia You is responsible for taking him to the future to have a peek and confirm the truth of infinite Tsukuyomi. "No rush, you still need to wait for a while." Xia Yu's answer made Madara furious. The evil energy and chakra coercion that had just accumulated from the sea of blood in the corpse mountain pressed against Xia You, and asked sternly, "You want to break the contract?" What Madara can't bear the most is deception and betrayal. "No hurries. The battlefield here is not finished yet. Please wait for a moment," Xia You explained calmly. After the chakra surged, he was able to withstand Madara's chakra oppression. Of course, actually and psychologically, it is far less relaxed than on the face. Madara withdrew her malice. When he heard that the battlefield was not finished yet, he chose to endure it. "Let's see what other excuses Xia You can come up with. How else do you need me to deal with the battlefield?" "You don't need to do it, I can do it myself." "Oh!" Madara's eyes lit up. When I heard that Xia You was going to take action personally, I felt a little more pure curiosity and expectation. Just in time to see the power of the reincarnation eye, or the true strength of this, Xia You immortal. But now the entire Iwagakure village has been reduced to ruins, with almost no survivors inside. In the battlefield outside the village, all the ninjas who could escape had fled, leaving only hundreds of seriously injured and dying ninjas. Are there any strong enemies? Could it be that Xia You wanted to take action against those seriously injured? Isn't that too crude? Do the dignified immortals stretch their hips like this? Xia You saw Madara's doubts and didn't bother to explain. After a while he understood. Although Madara did use a violent attitude to defeat the IWA ninja army and also chopped the entire Iwagakure village to pieces with one sword. But this is not enough. In other words, it's still a little bit worse. Just in case. After some time, some remaining IWA ninjas will gather back and continue to rebuild Iwagakure village. Although the probability is not high, it is still possible. Some stubborn ninjas will have obsessions that are difficult for ordinary people to understand. Therefore, Xia You doesn't want to bring Madara over to clean it regularly from time to time. And as the first ninja village to be destroyed, Xia You has to ensure that Iwagakure village will not rise again, so as not to suddenly slow down your task progress in the future. Forget it. Just make the final patch yourself. As for what method to use? Brush. Xia You disappeared from the spot and instantly appeared directly in the sky thousands of meters above Yanin village. Then, a modern physical exchange coupon was used. Next moment, a gray-green cylindrical strip more than 10 meters long appeared beside Xia You. Then immediately delay activation and let go. The cylinder fell straight down towards Iwagakure village. Xia You immediately teleported away and returned to Madara's side. Madara, who has excellent eyesight and strong perception, naturally discovered that Xia You teleported to the heights of the ruins of Iwagakure village and stayed there for a few seconds. But I don't understand what he did specifically. What are you doing? Let's go and take you to observe from a distance. Xia You took Madara and teleported dozens of kilometers away. The sudden teleportation made Madara feel slightly uncomfortable, but he soon calmed down. He was even more shocked in his heart that Xia You could really teleport with him. And he did so without any warning and was unable to resist. "You. Look over there." Xia You pointed in the direction of Yanin village and put on a pair of sunglasses at some point. Although there is a high probability that his reincarnation eye will not be harmed, Xia You does not want to look directly at the sun casually. Which way to look? What to see? Madara looked at it, quite puzzled, not knowing what Xia You was doing. But the next moment, tens of kilometers away, in the center of Yanin village, a huge ball of light suddenly rose from the ground, and the strong light like the blazing sun instantly overwhelmed everything, even covering up the sunlight in the sky. The ball of light expanded rapidly and turned into a large orange-red mushroom cloud. And it tumbles and expands rapidly in the air, swallowing everything around it. Compared with the mushroom cloud that symbolizes destruction, is terrifying just to look at, and is more than 10 kilometers high, complete Susanoo, seems a bit small. Madara stared blankly at the exploding sun on the ground. Then he murmured with deep excitement, "What the hell is that ninjutsu?" Episode 47. The Art of Nuclear Explosion. Boom. The Earth is groaning. The Earth is trembling. It was as if the heart of the Earth's core was struggling to beat. After the extreme light radiation, what followed was a super shock wave visible to the naked eye. The terrifying shock wave willfully twists the invisible air into water patterns, violently throw all objects along the way into the air, and tear them into pieces. Even spreading for dozens of kilometers, it still affected the location of Xia You and Madara. Fortunately, its power has been weakened countless times, and it is not enough to cause harm to the two of them. But if you get close to the center of the nuclear blast, the attributes of a ninja, such as high attack and low defense, would evaporate in an instant. Even Madara, who activated Susanna, couldn't guarantee that she could withstand the terrifying power at the center of the explosion. And looked at the center of the explosion in the distance. Xia You was not only amazed, but also witnessed a nuclear explosion with his own eyes for the first time. The level of shock is indeed far greater than the explosion of the tailed beast Jade. It's too ferocious just in terms of perception. And the power of truth theory. This medium-weight Dongfeng Express is also very impressive. It's hard to say whether it can match Nine Tails' charged, tailed beast Jade. But this is definitely much more powerful than ordinary tailed beast Jade. What's more, the most terrifying thing about nuclear weapons is not the power of the explosion, but the long-lasting nuclear radiation damage afterwards. It is equivalent to a large-scale, biologically extinct death barrier that can last for decades, and it does not require any chakra maintenance at all. As a result, anyone who attempts to return to this area and rebuild Iwagakure village will be devastated by radiation. Either die here or take the initiative to escape from here. Unless someone in this era can study the principles of nuclear energy and radiation, it will be difficult to find a countermeasure. Although a little cruel. But what Xia You wants is this effect, so that he can completely solve Iwagakure village, once and for all. Speaking of which, the system's modern physical exchange voucher is actually so easy to use. You can actually exchange it for Dongfeng Express. It is worth reassessing the value of these modern physical exchange coupons and using them sparingly in the future. How about it? Is this battlefield cleaned up? Xia You smiled slightly. What the hell is this ninjutsu? There's no trace of chakra at all. Madara was puzzled and shocked. This is obviously beyond a ninja's basic knowledge. Just like a magical girl suddenly appears in reality and releases, Comet Azel, in front of you, it would be abnormal if your worldview does not collapse. Nuclear escape, the technique of nuclear explosion. Is there such an escape technique? Sage jutsu from another world, it is difficult for ordinary ninjas to learn. Madara frowned slightly, but still refused to give up. I can't learn it either? This escape technique is much more complicated than S-level ninjutsu, and it is difficult for one person to master it. If Konoha can develop normally, you might be able to master it by chance in the next few decades. Madara nodded and asked no more questions. He was indeed interested in such a powerful escape technique, but he was not in a hurry to learn it right away. Take it easy. I can always find a way to get this kind of power from this Yudao immortal. And, in his eyes, maybe this is also a deliberate show of strength by Xia You? Just to warn myself, he can easily destroy an entire ninja village? With unpredictable teleportation and such terrifying nuclear escape, Madara has raised Xia Yu's threat to a level beyond Hashirama. What if he suddenly ducked behind him and shot him while he was asleep? I'm afraid I won't even have a chance to open Susan. Damn you, damn Xia You. Don't even think about using this kind of threat to make yourself surrender. Madara felt unhappy and became more and more afraid of Xia You. But he also thought of a new question. You have such a powerful escape technique. If you want to destroy Yanin village, why should you let me do it? Xia You explained casually. Immortals generally don't interfere too much in secular changes. You destroyed Yanin village, what does it have to do with me? Madara couldn't help being stunned, and had a deeper understanding of Xia Yu's shamelessness. Isn't this called excessive intervention? You are just about to destroy the village directly. Besides, how can any immortal call himself an immortal all day long? Pooh. This treacherous guy is probably as despicable as Tobirama. Madara said with disdain in her heart. Of course, there is no change in facial expression. And what Xia Yu said was indeed just an excuse. In fact, Xia Yu is really not good at directly causing large-scale killings. There is a prompt in the system. Since Xia Yu does not belong to the Hokage world, he has been rejected by the world, and he can only act normally because of the system's shielding. If too many people are killed by one's own hands, it will easily lead to increased rejection in the world, further affecting the mainline unification mission. Of course these secrets cannot be revealed. That's why Xia You must support the forces and use Konoha's hand to truly destroy the enemy and unify the ninja world. Fortunately, this is also relative. If there are any idiots who think they are easy to bully, Xia You doesn't mind sending them all back to the Pure Land. Gradually, Madara noticed something strange. This is... Under the irradiation of an invisible force, the physical strength of the surface of my skin began to weaken, and it seemed that a few cells were becoming distorted. Although it is very weak, it is even difficult to detect. But for a strong person like Madara, the degree of control and familiarity with the body has reached an incredible level. Every change in the body can be clearly and accurately detected. Naturally, he felt the weak damage caused by nuclear radiation to himself. You feel the radiation? What is radiation? An invisible force that can continuously weaken the physical strength of ninjas. You can understand it as a large-scale barriers that can last for a long time and are difficult to resist. Anyone who stays in them will gradually have their bodies rot until they die. Madara generally understood and couldn't help but frown and sigh. I see. Is this what you call handling the battlefield? In this case, no one will be able to rebuild Awagakure village. Snort. You actually have such cruel methods. You are more like a devil than an immortal. Not even that bastard Tobirama can compare with you. Xia You laughed and shook his head, not taking it seriously. I was already very restrained, and only sent the Dongfeng Express after Yanin village was reduced to ruins. On the road to reunification, sacrifice is inevitable. Xia You was mentally prepared. What's more, compared to the 3 battles and 4 battles launched by Madara and Obito, this sacrifice is not even a fraction. Okay, now it's time to fulfill your promise, right? Madara stared at Xia You again and asked seriously. Now is not the time. You are indeed free to choose a time node to insert another parallel Hokage world. However, once a fixed time point is selected as the anchor point, the next time you enter, you can only follow the normal development of the timeline after the anchor point. In short, I can indeed take Madara to see the 4th Ninja War in Hokage World number 5. But after watching it, I can't take anyone to see it again in the future. So let's keep this opportunity for now. When enough spectators are gathered, they will be sent over to watch the game again. Only then can the effects and benefits be maximized. Such an excuse is lame, and my patience has its limits. Madara's tone became more and more unkind. Even if he knew that he might not be able to defeat Xia You, he would not allow himself to be fooled or deceived any longer. But it's okay to take you to the future first. Xia You changed his tone. After all, the unification progress of this, Hokage World number 1, has exceeded 50%, and the system has also unlocked certain restrictions. Now he can take 2 more members of the bound force with him to other worlds. It is not possible to take Madara to watch the 4th war for the time being, but I can already take him to visit other worlds. Oh! Madara's eyes lit up and she was about to say something. But Xia You had already activated World Teleport, taking him away from Hokage World number 1 instantly. Episode 48. Tobirama faked his death and plotted a war. Inside Hokage World number 2. Time and space. Second Hokage. Time, Konoha 17 years. Unified progress, 25%. Fire Country, Konoha Hidden Village, after 2 days and 2 nights of traveling and retreating. Tobirama successfully brought the 6 Sarutobi Danzo back to the outside of Konoha Village. This time, the plot direction is different from the original one. Second-generation Tobirama did not die at the hands of the Golden Horn troops, but instead wiped out all the Golden Horn and Silver Horn troops. Although Uchiha Mirror lost one left eye, at least he is still alive and well. Danzo lost one of his right eyes, but it didn't turn black. With Tobirama holding him down, he couldn't turn it black even if he wanted to. As for the other 4 Sarutobi, they were even more excited, sweeping away their original depressed mood. Simply put, as long as Tobirama is alive, the future of Konoha has completely changed. And just before Tobirama's 7 people were about to arrive in Konoha, finally going home, Akamichi's round face finally showed a relaxed smile, eager to return to the village. Yeah, I didn't expect that this alliance meeting would turn out like this. Mito Kodoyan sighed, feeling like his escape these days was like a nightmare. Go to bed, Koharu. Damn Kumogakure, they will pay the price sooner or later. Uchiha Mirror smiled slightly. There will be a chance. We are all still alive. There will definitely be a chance. Danzo touched his blind right eye and vowed the same. Next time, I will make all Kumogakure's blood debts repay with blood. Sarutobi hesitated for a moment, looked at Tobirama, and took the initiative to resign. Teacher, since you are safe and sound, you are still the Hokage. No, monkey, you continue to take over Hokage's position. Tobirama paused and said decisively in a deep voice. Sarutobi was confused. Sigma. Danzo was shocked. Zero Q. The other people were also puzzled. Why? Why? Listen up, all of you. After returning to the village, you will claim that I have died at the hands of the Golden Horn troops. Monkey, you take over as third Hokage. The rest of you, try your best to assist Monkey and maintain the stability of the village. You must not reveal that I have returned. Alive news. Tobirama ordered extremely seriously. He wanted to fake his death to deceive the entire ninja world and facilitate his subsequent plan. As for letting Sarutobi continue to take over as third Hokage, it was a decision he made after careful consideration. Although, Tobirama already knew some of the ridiculous things Sarutobi did after he was in power for decades. Tobirama was so angry that he wanted to hang the old Sarutobi up and beat him. But it is undeniable that at this point in time, among his 6-man personal guard team, Sarutobi is still the one most suitable to inherit the position of Hokage. Regardless of strength, prestige, or belief and will, he is the best among the 6. If Sarutobi is chosen as his successor, the future may not necessarily be better. But if someone else is chosen to succeed him, things may get worse now. The most important is, just because you're alive now proves that the future can be changed. And he also knew the future information. Then Tobirama had enough confidence to retrain Sarutobi and the others, at least so that they would not become as bad as they were in the future. The future is the future. The Sarutobi who is now may not necessarily become the Sarutobi of the future. Besides, who said that after Sarutobi took over the position of Hokage, Tobirama would not be able to handle government affairs and manage Konoha? In the future, wouldn't Sarutobi like to abdicate and still hold on to power, treating the 4th Hokage as his bear commander? Now it was time for Sarutobi to experience the terrible feeling of becoming a polished commander. Let's see if he dares to be so greedy for power in the future. Practical lessons are more unforgettable than verbal lessons. No! Teacher, you're the Hokage. How can you let Sarutobi? Danzo immediately jumped out to object. He finally saw Lord Tobirama alive, and he thought he still had hope of succeeding Hokage, so how could he easily give it up to Sarutobi again? In response, Tobirama yelled directly at Danzo. Danzo, if you really want to defeat Monkey, then show your ambition. Sink down and focus on progress. Strength, ninjutsu, results, political achievements, etc. As long as you work hard enough, you may not be able to surpass the Monkey. That's what you need to do instead of focusing on verbal arguments. After a trip to the future, Tobirama found that he was still too gentle towards these cubs. If you deserve to be scolded, you must scold. You must train if you need to. If you deserve a beating, you must hit it hard. Only in this way can their bad habits be corrected and they will not grow into deep-rooted bad habits. Danzo was startled when he was yelled at and lowered his head in shame, his ears burning uncontrollably. What a shame. But Tobirama's reprimand did have some effect, making Danzo more confident in catching up and surpassing Sarutobi. Teacher, I also feel that I am not enough. I hope. Monkey, do as you are told. You are already a Hokage, don't let me down. Tobirama glared at Sarutobi, not giving him any chance to escape. Sarutobi accepted the order. He knew that teacher Tobirama must have his own arrangements. All you have to do is follow your orders. That's all. Tobirama used the Flying Thunder God to fly back to the village without anyone noticing. The 6 Sarutobi, who looked quite embarrassed and exhausted, finally returned to the village and brought the news of the alliance failed and second Hokage Tobirama was killed back to Konoha. For a while, the whole of Konoha was in an uproar. All the ninja clans were shocked and frightened. Even a few ninjas began to have the idea of escape from Konoha. Fortunately, Hiruzen Sarutobi stepped forward and took over the position of third Hokage. With the power of the Sarutobi clan and the support and assistance of the 5 Danzos, the panic and distracting thoughts in the village were gradually calmed down. During this time, Tobirama didn't help at all. He doesn't worry about these little things at all. Originally, after he died, Sarutobi and the others were able to appease the various tribes and unite the village again after they returned to the village. There was no reason that he was still alive. After greatly increasing their confidence for Sarutobi and the others, they still couldn't stabilize the village. If that's the case, Tobirama really needs to consider completely replacing a group of successors. The day after returning to the village, in the cubicle next to Hokage office, Tobirama is analyzing the intelligence sent back from the frontline ninjas. Suddenly, 2 figures flashed in an instant. Tobirama was startled, but then calmed down. To be able to quietly appear in the cubicle lined with barriers like this, Tobirama knew that it was the Yudao sage, without having to guess. Only, the person he brought this time was not his eldest brother Hashirama, but another old acquaintance that Tobirama hated and feared. Uchiha Madara. It's you, Uchiha Madara. You're not dead? No. Are you Madara from eldest brother Hashirama's side? Tobirama said in shock. He quickly guessed Madara's identity. Madara, who teleported here, was obviously even more horrified. Through the window, he quickly recognized that this was Konoha village, but it was much more prosperous than Konoha on his side. This is Konoha village? Future Konoha? Are you that guy Tobirama? No, that's not right. Although you're still annoying, you're not the Tobirama I know. Madara's eyes were so vicious that she could see the difference between the number 2 doors at a glance. Compared to the old Tobirama here, the Tobirama in world number 1 is much more annoying and domineering. With his elder brother Hashirama here, the young Tobirama never knew what fear was. And this old Tobirama, after being tortured, is obviously a little less sharp and a little more profound and steady. Episode 49. Despicable Senju Tobirama, still the same. After Madara and Tobirama met, the air and atmosphere suddenly became tense. Especially without the lubricating oil of Hashirama. If 2 people meet alone, they may fight at any time. Even Xia You is ready if anyone takes action. Just teleport anyone away. Talk again after you have calmed down. However, this time, both parties actually endured it with restraint. Although Madara felt unhappy, she chose to be patient. If the other party is really Tobirama in the future, he really needs to let him go, at least after he gets the information he wants. And the mentality of the elderly Tobirama in world number 2 has also changed, and he has taken a dim view of many things. Anyway, the Madara in front of me is not the Madara I know. Just treat it as the first time you see this nasty guy, and it's not worth fighting. What's more, you Dao Immortal. Face must be given, right? Sir, why did you bring this guy here? Where is my elder brother? Tobirama looked at Xia You, really hoping that Xia You would send away this evil Uchiha leader quickly. We made a deal with Madara and brought him here to see. Maybe you need his power too. Madara looked at Xia You, then at Tobirama, and then at the window. I finally stabilized my mood and became serious. Is this really the future? Yes. How long in the future? Konoha 16 years later, the first year after Hashirama's death. So that's it. This is the future that Hashirama visited last time? Is he really dead in this world? Madara showed a trace of imperceptible sadness. Now I finally understand why Hashirama insisted on keeping him at all costs after his return, and even allowed him to succeed him as second Hokage. This feeling of losing a loved one is indeed unbearable. Even if the person who died here was not the Hashirama mom I knew. At the same time, Madara's last doubt about Xia You also quietly disappeared. This guy can really take himself to the future. Yudao Immortal is indeed worthy of its name. Because Madara is very sure that she definitely did not hit Genjutsu. Then there is only one possibility. This is indeed the future. It is indeed Konoha 16 years from now. Now that I know that I have come to Konoha 17 years in the future, Madara had already heard Hashirama talk about the general situation here. Of course, the specific information is not clear. After all, Hashirama didn't stay too long in the first place. So, this Tobirama was supposed to die at the hands of Kumogakure's 2 beasts? In the end, he was lucky enough to be saved by Hashirama. Madara was full of hatred as soon as she opened her mouth. He also felt that Tobirama's original fate was both ridiculous and sad. How could Tobirama, who was so arrogant, die at the hands of 2 beasts? Ha ha ha. After going back, you can use it to laugh at Tobirama on your side. Tobirama's face suddenly turned dark after hearing this, and he wished he could just seal Madara's foul mouth. What words? What words? I was just careless and didn't dodge. Got attacked. Damn it, Uchiha Madara, you have the ability to fight for 300 rounds, etc. I can't seem to beat him. Forget it, bear with it any longer. I am a second Hokage, so I don't have the same experience as this rebellious ninja. There was a big storm in Tobirama's head, but he finally endured it. It's a pity that the eldest brother is not here, otherwise he would just pounce on and bite someone. Xia, you did not participate in the bickering between the 2. When everyone knows in the future, Madara was accidentally attacked and had her heart ripped out by Black Zetsu's dutiful son. I can't tell who is laughing at whom. After a moment of teasing, Xia You asked about the business. Tobirama, how's the situation here with you? Everything is going according to plan. Except for Saratobi and the other 6, no one knows that I am still alive. The entire Konoha, as well as the entire ninja world, basically thought that I and Golden Horn and Silver Horn died together. Speaking of this, Tobirama also became more energetic. Actually, during the 3 free days before, Xia You was not idle either. The number of teleports was refreshed every day. I also visited world number 2 and world number 4 from time to time. He discussed with the old man here, Tobirama, and came up with a suspended death plan. After weighing it a bit, Tobirama decided to adopt it decisively. After all, Tobirama himself knew it. If he had not died, it would have had a great impact on the subsequent development of the ninja world. It will also cause a lot of future intelligence they have obtained to become invalid. It's better to hide it first and claim that Tobirama has died in the battle. Then use the subsequent intelligence to seek more benefits for Konoha. Listening to Tobirama's response, Madara also showed some interest. Can you fake your death to escape? What a plan. Wait a minute, then in this world, am I also pretending to be dead? And am I still alive? Madara suppressed this excited speculation and continued to ask, what is the current situation of this first ninja war? Actually, the first ninja war can be roughly divided into 2 halves. First half, taking advantage of Hashirama's death, the 4 hidden villages gathered their armies non-stop to attack Konoha. Tobirama inherited the position of second Hokage and summoned a massive army of the dead with the forbidden technique, reincarnation of the evil land, to block the joint invasion of the 4 nations. Finally, with the power of the Flying Thunder God, he defeated the 4-nation coalition forces, shocked the ninja world, and won the reputation of the fastest in the ninja world. Second half, after being defeated by Konoha led by Tobirama, the 4-nation alliance fell apart. Everyone saw that Konoha was still so difficult to chew without Hashirama, so they naturally gave up on joining forces. Then, Sunagakure village shrank back, no longer participated in the war, and concentrated on researching the weaponization of tailed beasts. Cloud Hidden village attempted to form an alliance with Konoha to negotiate peace, but was destroyed by the Golden Horn and Silver Horn, resulting in the sudden death of both second-generation Thunder and second-generation Fire. Iwagakure village and Kirigakure village fought to the death until second Tsuchikage and second Mizukage died together. As for now, the battle has entered the second half. If Tobirama doesn't die, Konoha's overall strength is still the strongest. The second Tsuchikage and the second Mizukage in this world may not necessarily fight to the death or even perish together. Unless they die, either one of them will be a big threat to Konoha. This is also one of the real reasons why Tobirama released the news of his fake death. So, what are you going to do? Tobirama paused for a moment, glanced at the information on the table, and said excitedly, according to intelligence, Iwagakure village and Kirigakure village are gathering armies to prepare for a decisive battle in the Iron Kingdom. There is a high probability that second Tsuchikage and second Mizukage will perish together in this battle. Seizing this good opportunity, I will join forces with Sunagakure village, raid the hinterland of Iwagakure village, and take the opportunity to destroy Iwagakure village in one fell swoop. After knowing that several ninja wars will break out in the future and witnessing the Nine Tails Rebellion, Tobirama has long given up on the tailed beast deterrence system and the illusion of peace. He only wants to weaken the other 4 hidden villages as much as possible while he is still alive, and even destroy 1 or 2 of them. Accumulate more advantages for Konoha. Maybe he could be able to withstand Sarutobi and the others' squandering and wastage in the future? Upon hearing this, Madara immediately said with disdain, as expected of the despicable Senju Tobirama, these are the only things in his mind. Evil Uchiha Madara, do you have the nerve to say that? If you hadn't betrayed Konoha and fought to the death with your eldest brother, how could my eldest brother die so quickly? Incompetent guys will only blame others. Or do you want to say that without me, Konoha should be destroyed? Madara, who just destroyed Iwagakure village, is not used to it at all. I wish I could beat Tobirama to death. In his eyes, destroying the small Yanin village does not require so many twists and turns. Isn't it enough to be alone? Snort. Trash door, a straw bag. Episode 50, Yanin village. Why am I always the unlucky one? Although she looks down on Tobirama's grinding ways, Madara is very satisfied with Tobirama's current changes. You guys, didn't you advocate mutual respect and understanding like Hashirama back then? Now you finally understand? The enemy will not sympathize with you. Madara's teasing made the elderly Tobirama even more unhappy. Although he didn't want to be too gentle with the other 4 countries back then, but his eldest brother insisted on it, so he could only listen to Hashirama. And within the scope of his ability, he patched up Hashirama. Now after experiencing the siege of the 4 kingdoms and the betrayal of Yunin, Tobirama naturally abandoned the last trace of naivety, and his methods and ideas became much more radical. When faced with Madara's teasing, Tobirama didn't want to admit defeat. I don't need you to teach me. Madara was in a good mood and not angry at all. Instead, he felt a sense of pleasure as he pointed out the country and continued, "In this world, where there is light, there must be shadow. If you try to maintain peace for your own selfishness, you will inevitably lead to war. To protect love, hate will be born. The cause and effect here cannot be cut off. This is the reality. You can't change, and Hashirama can't change either." Madara understands this very well. If it weren't for Xia Yu's intervention, according to the original plot, he would have broken up with Hashirama and left Konoha. In the future, it seems that he will die at the hands of Hashirama again. Even he and Hashirama, close friends who were close to each other, had difficulty completely understanding each other until the swords finally turned against each other. How much more about one village and another village, and one country and another country? That sounds nice. As if you can resolve these conflicts. Tobirama was slightly excited and shouted loudly. Love and hate can't be cut off, but enough power can cut off the person who gives birth to hatred. If you can't resolve the conflict, you can resolve the source of the conflict. Tobirama was stunned. Although he felt something was wrong, he had no words to refute. Conflicts are indeed difficult to resolve, but conflicting people are easy to resolve. If he had the strength of his elder brother Hashirama, when the four nations' allied forces besieged Konoha, he would have defeated the other four Kages. Will they dare to backstab Konoha later? It would be nice not to climb over and be a dog in Konoha. Xia You ate the melon in silence and applauded old Madara secretly in his heart. He is indeed a fierce man who can withstand Naruto's mouth escape, and his own mouth escape ability should not be underestimated. Actually, Madara's philosophy and practice were both correct. The only miscalculation was that she was deceived by Black Zetsu. Otherwise, he might really be the one to unify the entire ninja world and completely end the war. Tobirama stared at Madara angrily, unable to refute. I can only say sadly, you, a guy who only thinks about power, won't understand. Managing and developing a village is far from simple. Just relying on force to deter people will not last long. You are not a Hokage, so of course you don't know the difficulty of this. The corners of Madara's mouth raised slightly, wanting to tell Tobirama of this world right away. On his own side, he has been designated as second Hokage. I believe that if Tobirama knew this, his expression would be wonderful, right? However, Madara still endured it, preparing to wait for the right time to discuss Tobirama next time. At least he had to make his side of Konoha more prosperous, so that he could have the confidence to attack Tobirama violently. Isn't it just managing a village? How difficult can it be? After I resurrect Izuna, I will definitely do better than this annoying guy Tobirama. My younger brother must be the best. I don't know how good a Hokage you are. You were besieged by the four kingdoms and almost died at the hands of two beasts. Are you worthy of being a Hokage? Madara, don't go too far. Tobirama jumped up and stared angrily. Just now, I completely destroyed Iwagakure village. What? Tobirama was startled and his attention was quickly diverted. Don't you understand? The Iwagakure village, over there, has completely disappeared. You destroyed Yanin village? How could it happen? Why would my elder brother let you? He doesn't know yet. Anyway, when he knows, it won't change anything. You. The old man Feijian was stunned. I wanted to say something, but it got stuck in my throat. I have to sigh with emotion. Madara is still so ruthless. So decisive. Especially after he knows the future, it becomes even more impossible to predict his behavior. If you say the Yanin village is destroyed, it will be destroyed. However, this is not necessarily bad news. At least on his side, if a war breaks out in the future and they besiege Konoha, there will be one less Iwagakure village. No. If Madara had been alive, it's hard to say whether there would have been a battle on his side. Seeing Tobirama's shocked look, Madara felt even more refreshed. Are you aware of your own gap? Why be proud? It won't be long before I can destroy Iwagakure village. Tobirama retorted angrily. Just don't blow the whistle. Speaking of which, Yanin village is not very lucky. It has been targeted by a treacherous guy like you again. Tobirama declined to comment. The reason why he targeted Iwagakure village is also very simple. At this stage, Misty Hidden Village, the entire area is isolated offshore, easy to defend and difficult to attack. Even when he was at his weakest, he still felt that some outside village had invaded his hinterland. Cloud Hidden Village, we have just experienced the rebellion of Golden Horn and Silver Horn. Although our vitality is severely damaged, the third generation Lei who succeeded is a ruthless character. Moreover, the whole village must be on high alert at this moment, making it difficult to make a sneak attack. Sunagakure village, Tobirama is so poor that he doesn't even bother to take a second look. Even if you try your best to defeat it, you will get almost no profit. Forget about those small countries and villages. Taken together, only Iwagakure village is worth exploring. At least once it's done, we can get some oil and water to replenish Konoha. Therefore, I don't blame Tobirama for targeting Iwagakure, I can only blame Iwagakure for being unlucky. Okay, stop bickering. Let's talk about business. Xia You spoke, suppressing the dispute between the two, and asked, Tobirama, are you sure you want to join forces with Sunagakure village to attack Iwagakure village together? We must pull up Sunagakure village. Afraid of them stealing your home? It's not hard to guess. If we don't bring Sunagakure village together, what if they take advantage of Konoha's sneak attack on Iwagakure village to sneak attack Konoha? Tobirama didn't want to pick up the sesame seeds and lose the melons and end up with Sunagakure village cheaply. Right. And Sunagakure village must be dispatched so that we can carve up Earth Country together afterwards and share the pressure on Konoha. There are no eternal allies, only eternal interests. Tobirama, who was stabbed in the back by Onin once, finally understood this truth. Once Sunagakure village joins, it is equivalent to being tied to Konoha's chariot, and it is impossible to get off in a short time. This is much more stable and reliable than any covenant. Afterwards, they can also join forces with Sunagakure village to fight against the accusations and pressure from other major powers. As for Sunagakure village, will it not agree? As poor as they are, if there is anyone with a hot mouth, they can't wait to pounce on them without urging themselves. It was too late for them to be happy that they could sneak attack on Yenin village together and share the benefits. How can you refuse? Just in case, if you really dare to refuse, Tobirama can only turn the spearhead and stab the disobedient Sunagakure village hard. Who are you going to send to convince Sunagakure village? I'm going to let Kagami and Danzo go. Oh! Aren't they both injured? That injury has some impact, but not much. And there is currently no more suitable candidate. Tobirama knew very well that the person sent to persuade Sunagakure village must have weight, strength, and be his confidant. Otherwise, it would be ridiculous to die on the way or reveal secrets. Sarutobi is the new Hokage on the surface and has to stay in the village. Mito Manabu and Koharu are slightly less powerful, and Akamichi is not tactful and clever enough to take advantage of the situation. Taken together, Kagami and Danzo are undoubtedly the best choices. The former has Sharingan, which can deal with various genjutsu and sneak attacks. The latter has good attainments in Fongun and is eager to achieve success, so he will definitely try his best. That's fine. But before you go there, you can ask Madara to upgrade the mirror. Upgrade? Tobirama and Madara were both a little confused and couldn't understand Xiao's words,